Well, you might not have known it, but St. Louis is home to a successful jazz recording label. Founder Rich McDonald decided to channel his love of the original American art form into a business venture, and the result is the jazz label Maxjazz. Jonathan Clark has more about how a love of jazz blossomed into a successful business.
Music has been with Richard McDonald for as long as he can remember, long before he ever thought about owning a record label. The bug bit him in elementary school, first the clarinet, then in 7th grade the saxophone. Right about that time, jazz took hold of his soul and wouldn't let go.
Some of my friends and I started listening to some great jazz, starting with Coltrane, Miles, Adderley, some of the names out of the 60s. And that eventually worked into what I thought might be a career in playing jazz, saxophone mostly.
Let's take 5.
But Richard was much more of a realist than a saxophonist. And the reality was that he could play, but probably not well enough to support a family.
That's why I have to have 2 takes for 3.
So Richard switched gears, earned an MBA, then went to work as an investment banker, trading sheet music and jazzy riffs for business cards and banker's hours. And he went on to make a decent living as an investment banker, bringing the timing and tuning of a Coltrane to bear on money management.
A lot of our day is filled with improvisation. We have to figure out from a certain pattern, where to go over here or there. So it seemed very natural just to have it as part of my makeup.
Investment banking has its rewards, many of them financial. But in the end, a musician is a musician, and a jazz lover is a jazz lover. And the jazz lover in Richard McDonald ultimately brought him back to his roots.
In 1998, I decided that I'd like to try to do something for the music, and I combined my business experience with my passion for the music, and that's what became Maxjazz.
Max, a tribute to his dad's nickname, plus jazz, is an artist-friendly label that brings national attention to a pool of talented musicians.
These are generally artists who are either fairly well known and can even go higher, or in some cases new artists who have not been exposed to the national marketplace, and that we enjoy that part of the business too.
Maxjazz is a family record label. Working alongside Richard is his son, Executive Vice President Clayton. Talk to me about the division of labor here.
Well, I already said I just make the coffee, but no.
Richard generally handles the company's finances and talent and project development, while Clayton focuses on administration and marketing. For Clayton, being around Richard and jazz is a lot like it was growing up with his dad.
He would take me to clubs here in St. Louis, or we took trips, New York, D.C., to hear music. So I never really looked at it as work, per se. It was always, an extension of what began as, you want to go here, so-and-so.
Clayton and his dad work as a team, deciding which artists earn a spot on their label. Maxjazz receives dozens of submissions each month. Few make the cut.
Yeah.
Got a nice fat tone.
Big fat tone.
We're looking for artists who have distinct artistic ability, clearly. It has to be a very outstanding musical ability. And we look for artists who have a certain ability to connect with an audience, who have a certain charisma.
Artists like Dina DeRose, a pianist and vocalist.
She developed carpal tunnel and had to stop piano for a couple of years. In the process, she, being such a musician, decided, I have to stay in music somehow. So she started singing. As it turns out, she has a great voice.
Veterans like Mulgrew Miller.
He's known by every pianist who's a pianist in the world. Mulgrew is one of those pianists who, when you hear, you say it's Mulgrew Miller.
New finds like Grammy-nominated Carla Cook.
She has an exceptional voice. Went up to New York, and she was singing with a big band, the George G. Big Band, and she just sang 2 or 3 songs that night, or each set, and it was like magic. I mean, her voice is very compelling.
And virtuosos like trumpet player Terrell Stafford.
I describe Terrell as a trumpet player who, when he takes a solo, he's playing it as if it were the last solo he'll ever play.
When Terrell Stafford appeared recently at Jazz at the Bistro, he had nothing but praise for how Maxjazz does business.
No stress in the studio, no pressure. It's like recording in your living room. That's how they make me feel as an artist. Like I'm part of the McDonald family.
Because when it gets right down to it, that's what Maxjazz is all about. Devotion to family and love of jazz.
The listener has to be satisfied or we're not doing our job.